Part 86. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 851. Boom. The voice of evil thoughts penetrated everyone's ears like thunder. He's not dead? When he first saw these evil thoughts, he was already devouring the nine heavens' tribulation thunder. He had no idea that the evil thoughts were actually a spirit body. He is a bird's inner demon, and he originally existed in the black ball in the form of a spirit body. Previously, Zuyun tried his best to smash the body with his chaos palm, but it really only belonged to Matai. If it weren't for the limitations of heaven, a person could only take possession of a body once in his life. I'm afraid his evil thoughts would devour Zuyun at this time. After all, Zuyun's various methods are extremely mysterious. If he can get his body and use everything for his own use, I am afraid the harvest will be greater than that of the demon refining tower. In fact, if evil thoughts want to survive in the demon refining tower, doing nothing is the best choice. With the backing of the demon refining tower, it is indeed, as he said, immortal. But unfortunately, after devouring the nightmare demon, he became the source of all evil. He wants to do evil to the mortal world and the evil spirit world, so how can he be willing to live in this tower? Then, he must merge with the Niao and reshape the demon body. But before that, he had to kill Zuyun first to prevent Zuyun from ruining his plan. If you are not dead yet, I will take advantage of your illness and kill you. The voices of evil thoughts sounded from all directions, and then a black shadow flew from the sky and went straight to Zuyun in the center of the crowd. Block him, block him. Countless monks are heartbroken. Even though they had long thought that Zuyun would die sooner or later, they didn't want him to die in the hands of evil thoughts. Get away. Several pill-forming monks rose into the sky and used their strongest spells to block him. But obviously, all their magical powers hit the black shadow, but they seemed to pass through the void, and they didn't succeed at all. The shadow continued on without any hindrance. Ordinary spells won't work, this is a spiritual body. It must be dealt with by soul magic. Yu Tangzi screamed, but the power of the soul method had long since been exhausted. It was not easy to breathe at this time. How could he stop the evil spirit? The evil thoughts did not encounter any effective obstruction and rushed straight towards Zuyun's body. At the same time, his body began to turn into substance, and an extremely dark palm, like a blade, was inserted straight into Zuyun's heart. It's over. Everyone's eyes showed sadness. Zuyun saved their lives and saved the mortal world, but they couldn't even ensure that Zuyun's body was intact. Just when they couldn't bear to watch anymore and closed their eyes one after another, a dull and heavy crashing sound reached everyone's ears. What followed was the scream of evil thoughts. Ah! Everyone opened their eyes suddenly and heard the sound go away. Their eyes quickly followed it and saw that the black shadow turned into a phantom again and fled away, but there were already cracks on the body, as if he was the one who was hit hard just now. What kind of power can make the soul shatter into pieces? Everyone was confused. They had no idea that Zuyun's heart was inlaid with a Dewu glazed mirror. If evil thoughts attack Zuyun's eyebrows with his soul body and go straight into his Zi mansion, they might still be able to succeed. But he chose to attack physically. The Dewu glazed mirror is the most precious treasure of the immortal emperor. No matter how strong he is, how can he pass through this immortal mirror? Everyone was still frightened and didn't understand what was happening, but they felt a little more in awe of Zuyun. Even the evil thoughts and souls that they were powerless to stop could not harm the unconscious Zuyun. One can imagine how strong Zuyun is. At this moment, Zuyun's chest suddenly burst into flames. Before anyone could react, the fire suddenly rushed out of Zuyun's heart, turned into a sea of fire, and surged towards the black shadow. What a terrifying flame! Why can I clearly feel the extremely high temperature of the flames, but it doesn't hurt me at all? This may be one of Zuyun's methods. In their shocked expressions, Fen Tianyan rushed out from the fire spirit orb. In fact, the reason why Zuyun has good aura and retains vitality is precisely because he has also practiced the spiritual fire symbiosis technique. The one who coexists with him is Fen Tianyan. Fen Tianyan was inside the fire spirit bead, frantically devouring the fire power in the bead, thereby maintaining Zuyun's vitality. After finally stabilizing, he encountered a fierce attack from the evil spirit body. The protector's thoughts made him decide to take the initiative. The longer he follows Zuyun, the more mature Fen Tianyan's spiritual intelligence becomes. The evil-minded soul body that cannot be stopped by the monks is obviously the biggest enemy in the tower at this time. As for the spirit fire, it naturally restrains the soul body, so Fen Tianyan will naturally not let him go. He found that his soul body had been severely damaged again. How could he not know that this was the best time to take action? My name is Fenchen, and I can burn the sky. In Fen Tianyan's voice that seemed to be muttering to himself, the sea of fire covered the sky, dyeing the entire sky in the tower fiery red. There is no way to avoid evil thoughts, so you can only fall back to the ground in a panic. My name is Fenchen, and I can burn the sky. Fen Tianyan's voice gradually became louder and more penetrating, constantly shocking the monks. If they had heard such words in the past, they would have looked down upon them and looked down upon them. But this fire burst out of Zuyun's body, and they couldn't even raise any doubts. Whoops! When Fen Tianyan saw the evil thoughts fall to the ground, the fire cloud in the sky suddenly rushed out with a huge palm and slapped the evil thoughts fiercely. His mind and heart were shattered by evil thoughts. On this 8th level, he had nowhere to escape. The only way out is the 9th floor. At this time, at the light gate, the tree formation set up by King Mu Sanren had been completely destroyed. The evil thoughts did not hesitate, and he ducked into the light gate. Fen Tianyan's palm fell immediately, and then the fire clouds in the sky quickly converged and turned into a stream of fire, which also headed towards the light door. He has the heart to kill evil thoughts? However, Fen Tianyan took advantage of it. The light door seemed to not exist at all to him. Now, everyone was dumbfounded. Originally, Fen Tianyan suddenly appeared and pursued the evil soul with an absolute and overwhelming advantage, making them feel that they had a chance to win. But he never thought that Fen Tianyan would not be able to enter the light gate at all. Fen Tianyan was very unwilling and tried to drill back and forth several times, but the light door was clearly visible, but it was in vain. Just because he is the spiritual fire who recognizes the Lord. And the demon refining tower is an extremely special existence. After going back and forth several times, Fen Tianyan finally recognized the reality, and angrily crawled back into Zuyun's heart. At this moment, Zuyun suddenly opened his eyes. Woke up. Zuyun wakes up. Half of his body was blackened and his whole body was weak. But Menguia, who had been standing by his side, said in surprise, Zuyun is awake. Suddenly, everyone froze, and then cheers resounded in the sky, and the crowd rushed towards this place. Don't crowd, don't crowd. I want to go see Zuyun. I also want to pay my respects to Zuyun. It would be best if I could shake hands with him. Come on, just because of your foundation building period. Ha, you don't understand, don't you? I am a disciple of the Lingjian sect, and Zuyun is the honorary elder of our Lingjian sect. Hiss, it turns out that fellow Taoist is a disciple of the Lingjian section. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. The performance of Lingjian sect this time was an eye-opener for everyone. Especially the two dogs, Big Dog and Two Dogs, are of low strength, but they show no fear when faced with evil thoughts. Not afraid of strong enemies, a role model for our monks. Not to mention, there are Yesuanhua and his son, Menguia and Lian Nishang, as well as Huo Maoang and others who joined the Spirit Sword sect from the Fire Dragon sect. Finally, the crowd stopped. It is indeed a great joy for Zuyun to wake up. But at this time, the evil thoughts have not been eliminated, and they still need Zuyun to make him recover well. Ahem. Following Zuyun's cough, the surroundings suddenly became quiet. Evil thoughts, are they dead? Zuyun felt that his throat was very dry, but his first sentence was about his evil thoughts. Dead, but not dead. Meng Wei cried with joy and sobbed, that palm of yours crushed him to pieces, but his soul is still alive. What? Zuyun was shocked, but there was a sharp pain in his charred half-body, and charcoal powder continued to scatter. Those are all his flesh, blood, and bones. Thanks to him being in the nascent soul stage, his physical body is extremely powerful. But it may take countless days to recover. Zuyun, listen to me. When Meng Wei saw Zuyun's anxious look, he quickly explained, evil thought soul was just injured by your spiritual fire, and then escaped to the 9th floor. Just rest in peace and recuperate. If he dares to come out again, you can use spiritual fire to burn him again. It won't be too late to kill him after you are healed. Meng Wei's suggestion was approved by everyone. Yes, Zuyun's burning sky flame is extremely lethal to evil thoughts. If he wants to escape again, he will use Fen Tianyan to deal with him. If he doesn't come out, Zuyun can rest assured to heal his injuries. After everyone's strength can be restored, it won't be too late to advance to the 9th floor. But Zuyun shook his head, stood up, and said with a bitter smile, no, I have to go to the 9th floor. After that, under the astonished eyes of everyone, Zuyun shook his body and stepped into the light door. They couldn't figure out why Zuyun made such a decision. Until, Hu Chong suddenly remembered the scene he saw on the 9th floor, and his expression suddenly changed. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 852. Master Hu, what did you think of? These great powers were also powerless, sitting in a circle, and they could see the expressions on their faces. Before, we were on the 9th floor, and Zuyun seemed to be doing something, then, he came out to kill evil thoughts. Hu Chong was getting more and more frightened as he spoke. So, he also came out to delay time. Yu Tangzi revealed the secret. That's right. Maybe Zuyun knew that evil thoughts was not so easy to kill, so he wanted to solve the problem of the demon refining tower from the root. It is very likely that he is using some method to seize control of the demon refining tower. Hu Chong suddenly thought of the key point. Zuyun tried his best to destroy evil thoughts' body, which was equivalent to restoring evil thoughts to the state before taking over the body. Recalling what evil thoughts said before, he was immortal in the tower. Evil thoughts returned to the 9th floor to become a tower spirit. As soon as these words came out, the great powers who knew the key took a breath of cold air. At the same time, he also knew why Zuyun couldn't even stand steadily and had to return to the 9th floor. He wanted to continue to delay time. Hurry, hurry, let's go to the 9th floor. Hu Chong shouted anxiously. A group of powerful people, in a mess, supported each other to get up, and trembled towards the light gate. Behind them, all the monks who were still able to move also moved. Hu Chong and his friends did not avoid these people in their conversation, so when they knew that Zuyun entered the 9th floor again to deal with evil thoughts, they were excited. If evil thoughts are not eliminated, there will be no peace in the mortal world. But at this time, in the 9th floor, a Niao also encountered a big problem. Originally, with the help of a group of demon kings, a Niao had completely occupied the black ball and almost became a new tower spirit. After the evil thoughts came in, he immediately discovered the development of things, which was completely beyond his expectations. Originally, he wanted to merge with a Niao, so that even if he could not get the demon refining tower, he could leave this place and find a safe place to rest for hundreds or thousands of years. One day, he could return to the status of a demon saint and then kill his way back to the spirit world. He has waited for so many years, so he doesn't need this much time. But he didn't expect that Aniao got into the black ball. Good thoughts, you are willing to become a tower spirit. Evil thoughts gnashed their teeth, so that all his plans were disrupted. Even after Aniao became a tower spirit, he could use the demon refining tower to completely suppress him here. Although Aniao could not kill him, he could become an accomplice and let Zuyun, or anyone with strength, kill him. Only in this way can I get rid of all the demons in my heart. Aniao's words were double entendres, and his tone was full of teasing. He saw the evil thoughts with cracks all over his body, and he felt a sense of comfort for no reason. It seems that it was Zuyun who made him suffer. But just as he finished speaking, Zuyun, who was half black and half white, came out of the light gate, which stunned him. And, you dare to chase me? Evil Thought was extremely angry. Just when he wanted to rush over to kill Zuyun, he saw a ball of fire suddenly burst out of Zuyun's chest. That familiar and terrifying breath is still fresh in his memory. Without the protection of his body, his demon soul body would be destroyed by the burning sky flame. Damn it! Evil Thought gritted his teeth and retreated repeatedly, while the burning sky flame pressed forward step by step, and as the burning sky flame approached, a fire system was formed again. The 9th floor space is so big that it can be seen at a glance. Wait, the altar is not just the black ball. This black pool is the only place to gather the power of the tower. Evil Thought had an idea and had already made a plan in his mind. Although entering the black pool would make him pay an extremely painful price. But at least, it can keep him alive. As long as the Green Mountains are there, there is no fear of running out of firewood. However, he might be caught in the endless open and secret struggle with Xianxia again. Swish! Where the evil thoughts went, the sound of breaking through the air sounded. The black shadow with cracks all over his body quickly rushed into the black pool, splashing water, and then merged with the black pool. The sea of fire of the burning sky flame quickly enveloped it, but it never thought that it would not cause any waves at all. In this black pool, there was a faint spiritual light, which resisted the burns of the sky fire. Zuyun was extremely surprised and could not believe the facts in front of him. I thought that the evil thoughts had been desperate under the burning sky flame, but now it was unharmed. Come on, come here. The evil thoughts, who knew the characteristics of the black pool very well, seemed to have a powerful backer, and even provoked Zuyun. Come on, I don't believe that I can't destroy you. Zuyun shouted in a low voice, and his mind was connected with the water spirit pearl. All kinds of liquids in the world can be controlled by the water spirit pearl. Get up. Relying on the power of the water spirit pearl, Zuyun waved his hands with difficulty. He had used this move on Lake Baiwa before, and it caused a huge wave at that time. However, the black pool was like a black mirror, without any movement at all. Ha ha ha, ant. Do you know what this black pool is? You are just an ant from the mortal world. Do you think you can kill me by destroying my body? That old guy in the Mahayana period couldn't kill me directly, let alone you. Evil Thought saw that Zuyun tried his best but couldn't hurt himself at all, and laughed crazily. Zuyun, this black pool is very mysterious, you are not strong enough. At this time, Aniao also reminded him loudly, which made Zuyun suddenly feel confused. How is this possible? He knows that evil thoughts are strong. But it is also true that only the evil thoughts of the soul body cannot withstand the burning of Fentianyan. But why, after hiding in the black pool, couldn't he do anything with all his methods? Zuyun. As far as I know, this black pool is the existence that gathers the power of the demon refining tower. In other words, this black pool is the origin of this tower. At this time, Aniao received a brand new piece of information and quickly informed Zuyun. What's the meaning? Zuyun felt that he had vaguely guessed something, but he was not sure. You regard the demon refining tower as yourself. The black ball where I am is your Zi mansion. This black pool. Zuyun didn't wait for Niao to finish, then blurted out, "It's Danshan." "Ha ha ha, congratulations, you got the answer right." The evil thoughts were extremely excited, and he interrupted loudly, "One of the mysteries of the demon refining tower is that all living things in the tower will provide power to the demon refining tower. And these powers come through the black pool. Second mystery, the altar composed of the black pond, and the black pond is made of the highest quality materials in the spiritual world. How could you possibly destroy it just by yourself? The third mystery. The altars are one body and connected to each other. If you destroy the black pond will also be affected. That is to say, unless you can kill the saint and Shan Nian at the same time. The fourth mystery. Every word of evil thoughts is like a golden drum and a sledgehammer, beating Zuyun's chest hard. He is so confident. Originally, when he heard the second point, he was about to take out the chaos sword and destroy the black pool. Let me ask, no matter how strong the material from the spiritual world is, how can it be stronger than the fairy sword? But when he heard that killing evil thoughts would implicate a Niao, he hesitated. Also at this time, those powerful men and the rest of the monks crowded into the demon refining tower. They saw Zuyun standing quietly, and heard the unbridled laughter of evil thoughts. Look like this. It seems that there is no way to deal with this evil thought. At this time, a Niao spoke. Zuyun, I can see that your sword can completely destroy this altar. Don't worry about me. For the sake of the world, kill me too. A bird, is that you? The familiar voice shocked Mengwei, and she staggered towards the black ball. Dream fairy. Niao did not deny it. In fact, he was even more surprised that Mengwei was here too. A bird, it's really you. How can you? Mengwei said, covering his mouth involuntarily. She just heard that Niao asked Zuyun to kill him. Dream fairy, it's a long story. Maybe, you can ask Zuyun later. In fact, evil thoughts are my inner demons, and I am the demon saint in the spiritual world. In order to remove the inner demons, my master will I refine this demon refining tower and separated the inner demons from my body. But I never imagined that a series of unexpected events would bring such a disaster to the mortal world. Now, I only have one way to die to apologize. Niao's words reached everyone's ears. Demon saint. Spiritual world. A bird, you. Mengwei always thought that Niao was at best a special demon king who also came out of the demon refining tower. But I didn't expect that Niao was a demon saint. Dream fairy, stop talking. Please persuade Zuyun that with my life, I can save all the people in the mortal world. What's the joy of life, and why is death so painful? With that said, Niao controlled the black ball and flew to Zuyun. Zuyun, do it. You kill me, and that's it? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 853. For a moment, everyone looked at Zuyun. In his hand, he still held the chaos sword. Someone wants Zuyun to cut the black ball in two with his sword. But there are also people who can't bear it. The majestic demon saint is actually willing to die for them in the mortal world. Is this what the mighty think? It has not been heard of human monks going from the mortal world to the spiritual world in the past 100 years. There are even rumors that the spiritual world passage to the Peeper realm has been cut off. Otherwise, how could there be such great masters from the older generation as Du Jian Renzun, Qing Mu San Ren, Lei Xian Master, etc., staying in the Peeper realm to practice hard, or waiting to die? One can imagine how difficult it is to move from the mortal world to the spiritual world. Look at the demon cultivator again. Their longevity is boundless, but it is extremely difficult to cultivate to the level of demon saint. Demon cultivators have been victorious for a long time, but their path to immortality is more bumpy than that of humans. But now, a demon saint is seeking death. No matter which party you are from or what thoughts you hold at this time, there is nothing wrong. Wrong, it's just the demon saint's inner demon. Zuyun, let's do it. Niao couldn't help but become anxious when he saw Zuyun not moving. GGG, at this time, Evil Nian smiled sadly. Shan Nian, it seems that this kid has been with you for a long time and has been infected by you, right? His heart is really too kind. He seemed to have guessed that it was impossible for Zuyun to do something to a Niao, which was why he would be so unscrupulous. Zuyun, on the other hand, looked at He coldly, his voice cold and ruthless. Shut up. He, you want me to shut up? Boy, you can't do anything to me. If you have the guts, kill Shan Nian. But, do you think I will really die after killing him? Zuyun knew that evil thoughts were disturbing his mind and preventing him from making the right decision. But no matter what, Zuyun never thought of killing a Niao. There must be other ways. As long as the connection between evil thoughts and Black Pool is unraveled, he will no longer have anything to rely on. At least, what is fortunate now is that evil thought is afraid of Fen Tianyan, so he does not dare to take the initiative to separate from Black Pool. In this case, Demon Saint, just stay here. Zuyun said lightly, and then said to the rest of the people, everyone, the Demon Saint's evil thoughts cannot come out of the tower for a while, and the spiritual fire below is extremely threatening to it. Why don't you come back from where you came from? Where to go? Zuyun, what are you? Yu Tangzi was confused and took a step forward to ask. Senior Yu, Zuyun chuckled and said, if I guard this tower, I can definitely think of some way to deal with him. Hu Chong understood and said, Zuyun wants to guard the evil thoughts here. If there is a way, he will kill the evil thoughts. If there is no way, he can also make the evil thoughts unable to continue to do evil. Nangongyan smiled bitterly and said, Zuyun, although we monks have a long life, if you stay here for 10 years or 100 years, there will be no problem. But what if it lasts for 1,000 or 10,000 years? Is it possible that the path to immortality will be ruined? This. Moreover, if your lifespan is exhausted, your evil thoughts can still cause harm to the world. What he meant was that after all, the evil thoughts were born out of demon saints and endured longevity. How could Zuyun survive it? I have my own thoughts on this matter, so don't worry, Nangong sect leader. Zuyun is very grateful that you all can come here thousands of miles away to deal with this catastrophe in the mortal world with me. Now, the matter is settled, you might as well go back and take care of your self-practice. Having said this, he paused and said, whether it is the human race or the demon cultivator, I am very happy to be united as one these days. If this can be done like this in the future, it would be great. And the human race, whether it is the righteous path, or the devil, they all abide by their true intentions, which makes Zhu feel that there is nothing unworthy in sacrificing myself in exchange for peace in the mortal world. Everyone, all tribes, factions, and forces have suffered heavy losses. I hope you can take a good rest after you go back. Now that the obstacles in the 3 realms have been removed, I thought it would be great if we could communicate with each other. As for the instigator, let me take the responsibility next time. Zuyun said this call in one breath, which made everyone present sigh. Indeed, if the Yusha realm, Peepa realm, Dongsheng realm, and even the relatively weak Yao realm were connected, monks in the entire mortal world would avoid many detours. And in the mortal world, almost all the monks are in the demon refining tower. The human monks knew that Zuyun's decision could not be changed. Under the command of the powerful men, they retreated to the 8th floor in an orderly manner. They still have things to do. For example, the corpse of a companion. After the human race retreats, it will be the demon race. Except for the demon kings of the 12 major demon clans, as well as the demon kings of other important demon clans, they stayed. Zuyun, at this time, the Rabbit Demon Emperor stood up and said, "The Rabbit clan will never forget the contribution you made to our Dongsheng realm. This is how the Horse clan is. Snake clan is like this. That's how dog people are." All the demon kings half knelt in front of Zuyun and paid the highest courtesy. Zuyun smiled slightly and said, "By the way, I almost forgot, the place where the demon refining tower is located is the land of the Nightmare Demon clan. The Nightmare Demon Emperor and the 7 major branch demon kings have all died. You can gather together and collect these, deal with the remaining evil. Also, the totem pole of the horse, sheep, and rat tribes may be there." Zuyun reluctantly stretched out a hand and pointed at a mummy. That was exactly the corpse of the Nightmare Demon Emperor after he transformed into a human form and was devoured by evil thoughts. There is an inconspicuous ring on the dry finger. All the demon emperors were shocked, and the Horse Demon Emperor immediately stepped forward, and with trembling hands, he took out 3 totem poles from the ring. The Horse Demon King put away the horse head pillar and handed the sheep head pillar to Brother Dayang. When he took the rat head pillar, he was a little at a loss. Because of the Rat clan, there is no Demon King. And almost the entire Demon King of the Rat clan was frightened to death and hid in the corner of the 9th floor, trembling. "Perhaps we need to discuss the Rat clan matter." The Horse Demon Emperor looked at Brother Dayang and said. Because Brother Dayang is the shrewdest among all the demon emperors. Indeed, the Rat Demon Emperor was not of the same mind as us at that time, and the ancestral land of the Nightmare Demon is actually the ancestral land of the Rat clan. We will wait until we kill the remnants of the Nightmare Demon before we make a decision. When a group of demon kings gathered around to discuss, Qiu Yu and Qiu Qi walked up with inexplicable expressions. "Zuyun, thank you." Qiu Yu looked solemn. Zuyun waved his hand casually and said with a smile, "The Fox Demon King is polite. No, what I want to thank is that without you, our 9-tailed fox clan would not have been able to return to Dongsheng realm." Qiu Yu's face was very solemn, and Qiu Qi, who was usually out of his mind, was also rare and quiet at this time. She witnessed with her own eyes what great things Zuyun had done. I also saw the desperate efforts of Menguia, Daegu Ergu, and others. But she couldn't even transform into a human form, and she hated herself for not being able to help. Zuyun seemed to have understood what Qiu Qi was thinking. He smiled and touched Qiu Qi's head and said, "Xiao Qi, practice hard and try to grow more tails." Squeak. Qiu Qi was a little angry and bit Zuyun's finger. However, seeing that Zuyun's hand didn't know how to dodge, he realized that Zuyun was helpless and moved his mouth to his finger. He quickly changed his movements and stuck out his tongue, licking Zuyun's fingertips. "It's so itchy." Zuyun smiled and retracted his hand and said, "Okay, if you want to find me, you can come to the Demon Refining Tower. I will not leave here with the Demon Refining Tower." Zuyun's words were meant for Qiu Qi and everyone present. Those who can stay here until the last moment are naturally people he knows well. Suddenly, everyone's faces were filled with joy. Yes, with Zuyun here, these evil thoughts will not dare to come out of the black pool. This is not a separation of life and death. For a time, everyone was smiling, and the feeling of parting was much lighter. A group of demon kings rushed over to kill the Nightmare Demon and left first. Yu Tangzi and other sect leaders have also left. They have suffered a lot of damage, and now they need to go to the 8th floor to clean up the mess. Final. Only people from the Lingjian sect are left here. Zuyun, well done. Yasuanhua stepped forward, extended his thumb to Zuyun, and said, "Now, if you dare to call me master, I won't dare agree." Zuyun was stunned for a moment, and then he looked at each other and smiled with Yasuanhua. "Master, Big Dog, and 2 dogs are seriously injured. You still need to refine more elixirs." After pondering for a while, Zuyun said softly, in 5 days, you come here and I will give you some elixirs, and then you can use them to make elixirs. Yasuanhua narrowed his eyes and didn't ask why it took 5 days, nor why he had to give the elixir at that time. Okay, then I will stay on the first floor of the tower for 5 days. Speaking of this, Yasuanhua said to Yezee, Zeer, you bring everyone from the Lingjian sect to gather on the first floor of the tower. Zuyun is also a member of our Lingjian sect after all, and we will guard it here. It's just and legitimate. Yes, Dad. Yezee and others also led others away. Before Yasuanhua passed through the light door, he suddenly winked at Menguia, and then said loudly, Girl, Zuyun has difficulty moving, so I will leave it to you to take care of him. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 854. Suddenly, the 9th floor of the demon refining tower was empty. Only Menguia and Zuyun were left. Wia, you can go too. Zuyun smiled bitterly and said. He is no longer the wooden person he used to be, so he naturally knows Menguia's feelings for him. But his evil thoughts have not been eliminated, and he has not yet attained the Great Way, so how can he think about other things? Furthermore, he wished the continuation of the family's incense and had already given it to Zhu Feng. I don't know if that boy has helped his father farm the land properly, and then asked for a daughter-in-law to continue the family line. For a moment, Zuyun was a little distracted. Menguia was angry in his heart. You told me to leave here, but here you are too fuzzy. He suddenly said out of breath, Zuyun, you have no spiritual power now. You should practice your qi well. Otherwise, this half of your body will be scorched. How will you act then? Zuyun suddenly came back to his senses and said, if I refine my qi, what should I do with these evil thoughts? Fen Tianyan was connected to his mind, and Zuyun was seriously injured, so he was afraid that Fen Tianyan would also be affected by her when he was refining his qi. The important thing is that Zuyun has always been accustomed to entering the immortal mansion to practice, so he naturally cannot let Menguia see him disappear into thin air. Although, he believes in Menguia. But the key lies in whether evil thoughts will suddenly arise, which will not only hurt Menguia, but also take away his glazed mirror. That's why Zuyun sent everyone away. Another reason is that the more people here, the more spiritual power they will provide to Blackpool. This is something he doesn't want to see. You, Menguia said with a sweet smile, sometimes the brain is quite smart, but sometimes it is easy to forget. Evil thoughts are afraid of spiritual fire. Don't I have one in my body too? While speaking, Menguia called out softly, and the sky fire dragon was immediately summoned. Suddenly, Zuyun's eyes lit up and he slapped his forehead. Isn't the reason why evil thoughts are afraid of Fen Tianyan just because Fen Tianyan is a heavenly fire? He only remembered that Menguia relied on the fire dragon staff, but he completely forgot about it. My bad, my bad. Zuyun raised a hand and said with a smile, that's it, you stay here and I'll go to the 8th floor to find a place to practice. After all, he still wants to enter the immortal mansion. Only there can his cultivation be more effective with half the effort. Of course, cultivation is secondary. After entering the immortal mansion, he still has more things to do. Menguia pouted, feeling a little reluctant. The reason she wanted to stay was because she hoped to see Zuyun for a while, but she didn't expect that Zuyun would go to the 8th floor. Then, pay attention, I'll just watch over here. Menguia nodded slightly disappointed. Zuyun escaped through the light door and came to the 8th floor again. There was still the smell of blood in the air. However, they have all been cleaned up, and there is no body at all. Those monks, or demon cultivators, also picked up the broken limbs and arms. When evil thoughts arise, all living beings are in trouble, the stronger the strength, the more determined the Taoist heart must be. Otherwise, for those who are weak, it will be a disaster. Zuyun sighed with emotion, then found a place and got into the fairy mansion. At this time, in the 9th floor, when Evil Thought saw Zuyun leaving, he suddenly said, "Little girl, that kid doesn't like you." Although Evil Thought's body has been destroyed, the 7 original sins caused by swallowing the nightmare demon will not be dissipated. Man is the spirit of all things, and has 7 emotions and 6 desires. Naturally, he cannot avoid the 7 original sins. Mengwei was coquettish in front of Zuyun, but he would not tolerate others. Even if he scolded angrily, "It's none of your business." Oh ho, Evil Thought was not angry. A black shadow slowly emerged from the surface of the black pool, and soon formed a human-shaped outline. "I am not very capable, but my temper is not small. Little girl, do you know, Zuyun is that guy plotting against you?" Mengwei raised his eyebrows and sneered, "Why, you want to sow discord between me and Zuyun? She is extremely disdainful. She and Zuyun have lived and died together so many times. How can you see through it?" "No, no, no, why do I need to provoke you? I am just stating a fact." The Evil Thoughts were so complacent that he did not pay attention to the bird in the black ball. He pointed at the Skyfire dragon hovering beside Mengwei and said, "Look, Zuyun has Skyfire, and you also have Skyfire. But why? Zuyun's heavenly fire is strong, but yours is much weaker." Hearing this, Mengwei's heart trembled for no reason, but she soon calmed down and said, "You can't lie to me. No matter how weak the heavenly fire is, it is still heavenly fire, and you will die if you touch it. Why don't you give it a try?" As soon as he finished speaking, Mengwei stretched out his hand. The Skyfire dragon connected with her, and immediately roared and rushed towards the silhouette of the figure. Boom! Mengwei's situation at this time is actually not that good, but as she said, spiritual fire is inherently capable of restraining various spiritual bodies, not to mention her spiritual fire is also heavenly fire. She thought that if she could kill her evil thoughts before she died, she would be helping Zuyun. But who would have thought? The dark silhouette of evil thoughts never dodges. And the Skyfire dragon, after rushing into the evil thoughts, actually split into 2, unable to burn through the evil thoughts at all. How so? Mengwei cried out in disbelief, staring blankly until the Skyfire dragon was split into 2 and then merged into 1, returning to Mengwei's side. Evil Thoughts then lazily said, "You don't understand what I mean. Zuyun's Skyfire is so strong that I'm afraid to avoid it. But your Skyfire did not hurt me at all. Didn't you think of anything?" Mengwei frowned and said, "You mean, Zuyun has selfish intentions?" "Right." Evil Thoughts waved and snapped his fingers, smiling and said, "Let's not talk about the spiritual fire. If the Skyfire becomes stronger, there are several ways. You are also in the nascent soul stage, don't say you don't know it. Devouring, it means devouring. Whether it is devouring the spiritual fire born and raised by nature, or devouring ordinary fire in the mortal world, the Skyfire can become stronger. These are the principles that all cultivators with spiritual fire understand." "That's right," Evil Thought continued, "have you never thought about it? As both are heavenly fires, if Zuyun's heavenly fire devours your heavenly fire, how strong will his heavenly fire be?" Mengwei already knew what Evil Thought meant. He wanted to say that Zuyun would choose to let Burning Heaven Flame devour her heavenly fire dragon in order to make Burning Heaven Flame stronger. With Burning Heaven Flame's current level, devouring ordinary spiritual fire is not effective, let alone devouring ordinary fire in the mortal world. If Mengwei's heavenly fire dragon was not given by Zuyun himself, I'm afraid at this moment, Mengwei would have doubted Zuyun to some extent. It's a pity that Evil Thought calculated 1,000 times, but he miscalculated this point. Someone will give up the heavenly fire that he got. The flaw he thought he had found was destroyed by his own questioning. Originally, Mengwei's mind was a little loose because his heavenly fire dragon was ineffective, but it was shattered when he mentioned Zuyun again. You think too much. No matter how strong Zuyun is, he won't take my sky fire dragon. Meng Wei showed a beautiful smile on his face, but he looked at Enian with disdain. Enian frowned. What did I say wrong? Enian, you don't know how kind Zuyun is. He gave me the sky fire dragon. Do you think he will take it back? Hearing this, Enian suddenly realized. Impossible, how could someone send such a spiritual object away? In the spiritual world, the heavenly fire will cause a frenzy of scramble. Evil Thoughts was hysterical and roared, he must want you to nurture this heavenly fire, nurture it to a certain degree, and then devour it. Yes, that must be the case. Only in this way can he maximize the benefits. Evil Thoughts? Meng Wei scolded, don't think that everyone is as you think. The relationship between Zuyun and me is not something that people like you can see through. I can live for him and die for him. He can do the same. You want to provoke the relationship between us, you are wishful thinking. Evil Thoughts was unwilling and said angrily, then why can't your heavenly fire hurt me? Don't you understand the key? Do I need to think about it? Meng Wei smiled indifferently and said, you are scheming and trying to confuse my mind so as to use me to find a way out. Evil Thoughts was speechless. When he was about to speak again, a Niao, who had been watching, suddenly controlled the black ball to move. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 855. Before the shadow of Evil Thoughts could react, the black ball hit it straight. Boom. The shadow was shattered into pieces, and the black ball of a Niao was also covered with cracks. The loud noise made Meng Wei come back to her senses in fear. Feeling the violent shock from the explosion, her whole body was blown away. Meng Wei was also powerless, so she could use the Sky Fire Dragon to attack, but her defense was far from enough. Immediately, Meng Wei fell heavily to the ground and fainted. Good thoughts, you actually sneak attacked. The shadow fell back into the black pool like a broken glass mirror, and the angry voice of Evil Thoughts also sounded. In his opinion, Good Thoughts would never do such a thing. Humph, inner demon. Everything I do is for good. You want to deceive fairy men, do you really think I'm a dead person? What a fairy man! Evil Thought said angrily, a dignified demon saint would have such despicable thoughts. Inner demon. You and I are not one now, what do I think has nothing to do with you? If you keep hiding in the black pool, I can't do anything to you. But if you leave the black pool, don't blame me for being rude. You know, I want to die with you. After the voice fell, a Niao seemed to have taken a breath, and the black ball suspended above the black pool suddenly rushed towards the black pool. Good Thoughts, you can't do this. Evil Thought finally panicked. Because what a Niao said was right. If he hadn't borrowed the power of the black pool and used his own demon soul power to create an outline, and in order to deceive Meng Wei, he consumed more than half of the original power, a Niao really couldn't do anything to him. And he even ignored the fact that a Niao had now entered the black ball and became a tower spirit, knowing the key to the demon refining tower. Can't. A Niao sneered and said, you have lost half of your original power, and all the creatures in the tower have left. How can you compete with me? What's more, there are 11 demon kings helping me over there. As he spoke, a Niao had already rushed into the black pool, causing ripples. The ripples kept hitting the edge of the pool, and actually made a sharp whistle. If Meng Wei had not fainted before, he would probably have been tortured by the whistle. Good Thoughts, you can't do this. Evil Thoughts repeated the sentence, because he was really panicked, and he knew that a Niao would really choose to merge with him. This is what Evil Thoughts didn't want to see. Let's not talk about whether he can win when merging and wipe out a Niao's spiritual wisdom. The final result of the fusion of the two is to become a tower spirit again. This is really being trapped in the demon refining tower again. After countless years, the evil thoughts finally found the opportunity and felt the breath of freedom, but was trapped again. He didn't want it, he didn't want it. Inner demon, let's fight to the death. A Niao roared, rushed his demon soul out of the black pool, and entangled with the evil thoughts in the black pool. You are in me, I am in you. The soul of the demon saint can never be separated. No, no. The evil thoughts roared unwillingly, but they could only be forced to fight with a Niao's demon soul. Even if they become tower spirits again, it is better to live than to die. But a Niao held the heart of death, and frantically let his demon soul offset the demon soul of the evil thoughts. This is a lose-lose style of play, and a Niao is not afraid. The evil thoughts are unavoidable, and can only feel the gradual weakening of his demon soul and a Niao's. Even if he is the final winner, by then, he will no longer be able to recover. Time passes. Mengwei wakes up quietly. All around, the silence was somewhat terrifying, except for the ripples in the black pool. There were no more ripples like before, and no more soul-piercing whistles. Aniao. Mengwei forced himself to stand up and called out in a low voice. No one responded. There was only a faint echo in the tower. Aniao. Aniao. She remembered that before she was blown away, Aniao spoke. So where was Aniao at this time? What was even more strange was that the voice of the evil thoughts was gone. Mengwei had no idea what happened when she was unconscious, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of fear in her heart. She couldn't help but think that it was the evil thoughts that killed Aniao and ran away. Zuyun, Zuyun. Yes, go find Zuyun. Mengwei staggered and hurriedly ran to the light gate. With a flash of her figure, she appeared on the 8th floor. But Zuyun was in the immortal mansion at this time, and to prevent the Dao glass mirror from being discovered, she deliberately hid far away, in a corner. Mengwei couldn't even release his spiritual consciousness. How could he find Zuyun? Zuyun! Zuyun! Mengwei shouted, his voice trembling constantly. Zuyun asked her to guard the evil thoughts, but after she fell into a coma, everything was gone. She was sorry for Zuyun. She was a sinner in the mortal world. Mengwei's voice was hoarse, but still no one responded. Exhausted physically and mentally, Mengwei collapsed to the ground, staring at the sky on the 8th floor of the demon refining tower in a daze. At this time, in the immortal mansion. After days of training, Zuyun finally recovered to about 80% of his original strength. The last chaos palm emptied Zuyun's body. He once again absorbed the chaotic power of the void and refined it, which undoubtedly made his chaos lotus mature again. Perhaps, if I use the chaos palm a few more times, I might be able to reach the spiritualization stage faster. Zuyun said this with self-mockery, but he was a little bit unbelievable. Although the recent breakthroughs in strength were all due to risking one's life, it would be too unbelievable if a technique could really be cultivated in this way. But fortunately, Zuyun's realm has indeed improved. Retracting his mind, Zuyun tried the other half of his body again. In fact, it didn't take much time to refine qi, and most of it was still spent on repairing the body. Fortunately, Zuyun has reached the nascent soul stage. Compared with the cultivators of the previous realm, the nascent soul stage has the characteristics of teleportation and the regeneration of broken limbs. Letting half of the body recover is nothing. At most, it just takes more time. It's a good recovery. Zuyun moved his palms and used all the means he knew. Whether it was drawing talismans or using the chaos sword to release sword energy. As for the Wuji sword technique, he couldn't use it. After all, when he learned this sword technique, he forgot all the moves, which was considered to be a great success. He couldn't use it if he didn't fight. Putting away the chaos sword again, Zuyun sat cross-legged and decided to continue to refine his qi and store up the chaos force before going out to solve the evil thoughts. What he didn't know was, these methods of Zuyun, through the void, once again affected the Holy Land of the Five Elements sect. On the training ground, the Five Elements sect master looked extremely ugly. Not long ago, he saw with his own eyes the vision that the Yuanying elder said. That fire phoenix, which obviously only has the aura of the nascent soul realm, makes me feel the power of the God transformation realm. And the tornado mixed with ice spiritual power, even for me who is in the God transformation realm, it is difficult to take it head on. The most bizarre thing is that gray-white sword energy. It is exactly the same color as these virtual clouds. If this sect master had not reacted faster, I would have been injured by the sword energy. As he said this, the Five Elements sect master lowered his head and looked between his legs. A sword mark was deeply engraved on the bluestone brick. Before, the fire phoenix passed through the virtual clouds. It was the fire phoenix talisman drawn by Zuyun. The phoenix's cry was sonorous, and immediately attracted the Five Elements sect master who was sitting cross-legged here. Before the fire phoenix dispersed, another ice tornado followed. The Five Elements sect master was immediately attracted to the attention, and did not notice that Zuyun's sword energy was released. By the time he reacted, the sword energy had already rushed between his legs. Fortunately, he was at a high level and reacted very quickly. He stood up on the spot and slightly spread his legs. The sword energy just passed through the ground between his legs. Just a little bit, Zuyun's sword energy was about to cut off his third leg. Although, at his level, regenerating a broken limb is nothing. But it made him feel a great insult. Who is it? Who is it? That force is clearly extremely pure chaos force. But there is no sword technique to practice in my Five Elements Chaos Sutra. Who is so wasteful that he practiced chaos force but used such a crude sword technique? The Five Elements sect master was extremely angry, wishing that his eyes could see through the void and see Zuyun in the immortal mansion. But this time, for some reason, the virtual cloud was extremely heavy and he couldn't see too far. In the end, he could only change direction in dissatisfaction and sit down again. But then, he was extremely focused, looking in the direction of the previous vision. After a long time, Zuyun exhaled a breath of turbid air and stood up energetically. There is still a little time left before the 5-day deadline. It's just right. I will refine some pills for Wu Ya so that she can recover as soon as possible. Zuyun stretched his body and walked towards the alchemy room. After reaching the nascent soul stage, he opened the drawer, but he knew that there must be a suitable pill recipe for him to refine pills. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 856. In the alchemy room, Zuyun still got 5 pill prescriptions. Soul Shaping Pill, Infant Training Pill, Xianxia Pill, Golden Marrow Pill and 5 Spirit Pills. The Soul Shaping Pill works on the soul. For monks, the stronger the soul, the easier it is to use spells. At such a state, sometimes there is no more than one breath between life and death. The spells you cast are 1 point faster. What you seize is not the opportunity, but the vitality. At the same time, the most intuitive influence of the power of the soul is the scope of spiritual consciousness. The scope of spiritual consciousness is wider, and naturally you can find out where others are before you do it. This is the function of the soul-shaping pill. What is more meaningful to Zuyun is that this is the first pill he has obtained that truly affects the soul. Pei Ying Dan works on nascent soul. The nascent soul is the foundation for monks in the nascent soul stage and is the place where spiritual power is stored. The infant training pill cultivates the nascent soul and becomes more powerful. Naturally, the more spiritual power a monk can store, the longer it can last when fighting with others. Xianxia Dan is a bit mysterious. It is taken during qi refining. It helps to calm the mind and eliminate distracting thoughts, so that inner demons are less likely to appear. The golden marrow pill acts on the bone marrow, making the monk's body stronger. Although a monk's body will slowly become strong and solid starting from the stage of forming the elixir, but really speaking, only when he reaches the spirit world and the stage of becoming a god can he be considered a true monk. Because in the nascent soul stage, if you think about the divine transformation stage, you need to overcome the tribulation. Just like the evil thoughts that took away Matai's body, he broke through to the stage of becoming a god with his human body, which led to the disaster. Although some accidents occurred during the period, which prevented the evil thoughts from successfully overcoming the tribulation, the purpose of coming down from the tribulation was actually to temper the monk's body. Only those who have withstood the catastrophe are qualified to continue practicing. As long as a monk fails to withstand the catastrophe, he will only end up in ashes. The function of the golden marrow pill is to make the monk's body stronger from the inside out, so that he can be more calm when the disaster comes. Each of these 4 types of elixirs is unheard of. Zuyun salivated, but after reading the prescription, he wiped his saliva helplessly. Because the elixir he possesses is simply not enough to refine these elixirs. Except for the last one, 5 spirit pills. 5 spiritual pills, as the name suggests, are 5 kinds of spiritual elixirs, which are similar to the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra he practiced. According to the elixir recipe, the 5 spiritual pills are purified from 5 kinds of elixirs with spiritual power. After reaching a balance in the elixir furnace and fusing them together, the elixir can be made. The elixir turns gray-white, and it contains the purest chaos power. So 5 spirit pills, also known as chaos pills. But the specific elixir refining was not mentioned in the elixir recipe. Zuyun touched his chin and couldn't help but whisper, "This is the elixir collected by the immortal emperor." The process of refining the elixir is exactly the same as my practice of the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra. But obviously, the immortal emperor is not the same person who created the technique. Man. But this all mentions the power of chaos. Could it be that the power of chaos is a common force in the fairy world? Zuyun is cautious at first, so he will inevitably connect these 2 aspects together. In addition, he knows that there is a 5 elements sect in the spiritual world, and everyone practices the 5 elements Chaos Sutra. Are the Immortals' skills so worthless? The reason for this is open to debate. But these 5 spiritual pills have nothing to do with the 5 elements Chaos Sutra. Maybe you can refine some yourself, but it can be used as a stepping stone to enter the 5 elements sect. He has extraordinary attainments in alchemy, has a very solid foundation, and his understanding of the 5 elements of spiritual power is far superior to others. He immediately decided to take the 5 lowest elixirs and experiment with them if he had the opportunity. First, low-level elixirs are easy to find. Secondly, even if you don't control the heat well and the refining fails, it will not cause the furnace to explode. After putting this thought in his heart, Zuyun curled his lips and left the immortal mansion. The rest of the elixirs were not too difficult for him, but it was difficult for a clever woman to make a meal without rice. Without the elixir, he couldn't make it even if he wanted to. Wait until everything is over, and then practice it for Wia. Zuyun did not intend to go directly to the spirit world, because he had agreed with Big Dog and Ergu that they would go to the spirit world together, and naturally he would not leave them behind, so he had plenty of time to prepare. Moreover, the mortal world has suffered heavy losses, and he may be able to maneuver among the 3 realms. It would be a beautiful thing if the mortal world could be happy and harmonious. After taking some stems, leaves, roots and other parts from the adult elves, Zuyun turned around and left the immortal mansion. A sound of sobbing immediately reached his ears. He was slightly startled. Where did he come from? Isn't the reason why I chose to hide in the immortal mansion on the 8th floor just because there is no one on the 8th floor? Not only was there no one, but there was no body. Not even a finger was left. With something in mind, Zuyun immediately poured out his spiritual consciousness. Wei. He saw Meng Wei sitting slumped on the ground, crying helplessly, and his heart couldn't help but clench into a ball. After calling out softly, Zuyun teleported several times and appeared next to Meng Wei. Wei, what's wrong? Zuyun quickly squatted down and asked anxiously. Meng Wei was supposed to be guarding the 9th floor, but she appeared here, and she was still crying. Could it be that there was an accident on the 9th floor? But that's not right. If evil thoughts take action, how can Meng Wei stay here safely? Hearing Zuyun's voice, Meng Wei raised his head in surprise, with tears in his eyes. I felt pity for him. Immediately, she said in a hoarse voice, something happened, a bird and evil thoughts are gone. What? Zuyun felt as if his mind was exploding. He subconsciously put his hands tightly on Meng Wei's shoulders, and he couldn't help but feel that he had exerted force. Don't you have a sky-fire dragon? How could something happen? Meng Wei was in pain, and Zuyun recovered, but she never practiced. Even if Zuyun didn't use her spiritual power, the pain caused her to turn pale. But Zuyun's tone seemed to be a little bit blaming. She endured the pain and said, I don't know what happened. The evil intention, I wanted to provoke a relationship between me and you, and then Aniao suddenly took action. Meng Wei told Zuyun everything that happened after Zuyun left. Let's go over and have a look. After listening to Meng Wei's words, Zuyun realized that his palms were like sharp claws digging out several big holes in Meng Wei's protective clothing. The skin that was originally as tender as a lotus root was pinched and turned green and purple. Wei, Zuyun was suddenly startled. I'm fine, let's go take a look first and then talk. Meng Wei lowered his head. Good. Zuyun turned around to leave, but then remembered that Meng Wei was no different from a mortal now. How could he keep up with him? But when he stretched out his hand, he felt like he had nowhere to put his hand. After hesitating for a moment, Zuyun took Meng Wei's hand, took her to the light door, and dived in. On the 9th floor, the silence was a little scary. It turned out that 11 demon kings helped Aniao suppress his evil thoughts. No matter how you say it, it has some spirit of life. But at this time, all the 11 demon kings fell into a deep sleep, and they couldn't feel any demon power in their bodies. If they weren't still breathing weakly, Zuyun would have thought they were dead. Look at the altar again. The sphere turned transparent, and the original black pool was like a clear pool. How so? Zuyun murmured and looked at Meng Wei. Meng Wei quickly shook his head, saying that he didn't know either. She had said before that when she woke up and found no sound, she ran to the 8th floor to find Zuyun, but she didn't find Zuyun for a long time, so she sat down and started crying. You wait here, I'll go take a look. Zuyun frowned. As soon as he took a step forward, he found that he was still holding Meng Wei's hand. After he carefully let go, he felt a little lost. Today, he is no longer the completely ignorant boy he used to be, but he has no love for his children at all. Pulling himself together, Zuyun jumped forward and stood in the middle of the altar in the blink of an eye. This was the first time he stood in this position. After looking at it, he found that the formation patterns on the altar had not been damaged in any way. After carefully observing every corner of the altar, and finding nothing out of the ordinary, Zuyun set his sights on the sphere. Suddenly, a golden light as thin as a gossamer flashed past. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 857. This golden light is very familiar. It is clearly the color of Aniao when he was still a demon saint. So thin, could it be that he is still alive? Zuyun quickly widened his eyes and looked into the sphere. But the golden light seemed to have disappeared. Zuyun's eyes were sore from staring, and even when he used the Pakuling Jingju, there was no trace of the golden light. Strange, is it my eyes that are blurry? Zuyun believed in the Pakuling Jingju very much. He looked at it for dozens of breaths but found nothing, which made him doubt whether he had really seen it wrong. In desperation, he retracted his gaze and turned to look into the pool. Swish! Another golden light rushed from one side of the pool to the other side. I'm not seeing it wrong. Zuyun was shocked and used the Pakuling Jingju again. But he still encountered the same result as when he looked at the sphere. Strange, really strange. Can't I see it with the Pakuling Jingju? Zuyun was puzzled. In order to verify his guess, he withdrew the Pakuling Jingju and stared at the pool water with his naked eyes again. 1 breath. 10 breaths. Half a cup of tea. 1 stick of incense. 1 hour. For a long time. Just when Zuyun was about to give up, the golden light appeared again. Yes, it really is. I'm not wrong. Zuyun was ecstatic. He didn't need to do anything to the golden light. As long as there was golden light, he would confirm that Aniao was still alive. However, Aniao obviously paid a very heavy price. This must be a demon soul. Although it is not satisfactory, it is good to be alive. Demon Saint, you and I have known each other for a long time. You have paid such a great price for the mortal world, so I will seal this place up and let you rest assured to grow here. Zuyun smiled. Since the golden light was seen in both the pool and the sphere, it means that Aniao must have won. For a powerful creature like him, as long as there is a remnant soul and a place to stay, his life is basically safe. The demon refining tower is deep in the corridor on one side of the nightmare demon's ancestral land, and all the cultivators in the mortal world know it. Although all the cultivators were united when fighting against the evil thoughts, he couldn't guarantee whether there would be any cultivators who would have bad greed and come to seize the demon refining tower again. It seems that this is the only way. Zuyun stood up and returned to Mengwe's side. Zuyun, is Aniao still alive? Mengwe was just scared, not stupid. Seeing Zuyun's reaction, he knew that this must have a very good result. Zuyun did not intend to hide it from her, but nodded and said, the demon saint is still alive, and he defeated the evil thoughts? However, now the demon saint only has a remnant soul, so I plan to lie. Lie. Looking at Zuyun with a smile on his face, Mengwe was very puzzled. Zuyun smiled and said, everyone knows that the demon refining tower is here. So I plan to seal it with a formation, and then tell the world that I have collected the demon refining tower as a magic weapon and will take it to the spirit world. Even if someone has bad intentions, he will not be able to find the demon refining tower and harm the remaining soul of the demon saint. Very good. Mengwe nodded repeatedly, agreeing with Zuyun's decision. Zuyun turned around and looked at the 11 demon kings, with a little reluctance in his eyes. Mengwe felt something and said, Zuyun, there is always a time to meet and separate. Since they are still alive, it is obvious that their lives are connected to a Niao. As long as a Niao is alive, they will definitely not die. So they will be fine. When there is a chance, you can come back from the spirit world to see them. Zuyun smiled, you are really good at comforting people. Mengwe had tears in the corners of his eyes, but he stuck out his tongue, I learned it from you. The two smiled at each other, and walked along the light gate one after the other. When they saw Yesuanhua and others on the first floor, they scared everyone in the Spirit Sword sect. Zuyun, you scared me to death. Didn't we agree on a 5-day deadline? Yesuanhua blew his beard and glared. Zuyun laughed and said, Master, everything is fine, so I came out early just to give you a surprise. I was frightened. Yesuanhua said unhappily, and asked Zuyun for the elixir without any hesitation, where is the promised thing? So urgent. Zuyun laughed dumbly, but also took out the elixir. How can I not be anxious? Fairy Lian is still injured, and I have taken out all my family's wealth to extend her life. But she is in the nascent soul stage, and I only have intermediate elixirs, which can only keep her alive. Lian Nishang. Zhu Yun's heart tightened immediately, and Meng Wei also said anxiously, Zhu Yun, Nishang was severely injured by the evil thought in order to help me. I'll go and see. Zhu Yun's spiritual consciousness swept and found Lian Nishang's location. She fell into a coma and her breath was very weak. It is very likely that she will not be able to breathe in the next moment and die just like that. Zhu Yun quickly placed his hand on her forehead, concentrating his mind and pouring his spiritual consciousness into her body to check her body. The situation is very bad. After a moment, he frowned. The Yuanying had one hand and one foot broken, and cracks appeared on the purple palace. For such an injury, it was a great feat of Yesuanhua's elixir to not die. Zhu Yun, even if you gave me these spiritual medicines, I can only keep her alive at most. Yesuanhua said faintly again. Zhu Yun suddenly smiled bitterly and said, Master, I learned alchemy from you. You are not good at it? What can I do? With this kind of injury, I guess even the master who can't do anything. Just as he spoke, the names of two pills suddenly appeared in Zhu Yun's mind. Infant training pill, soul shaping pill. Aren't these two elixirs that can strengthen the Yuanying and the soul? Anyway, I have nothing to do. I can save the big dog and the second dog. You must save Lian Nishang. Yesuanhua didn't see Zhu Yun's expression change and acted rogue, which showed that he also cared about Lian Nishang. Master, I have an idea. Zhu Yun felt a little relieved when he heard that the big dog and the two dogs were fine, and said, but I need some magic medicine. Go find me if you need me. I'm out of medicine already. Yesuanhua was also overjoyed. Zhu Yun said quickly, then let's leave. I just want to tell you something. While Yesuanhua arranged for the Lingjian sect disciples to leave from the exit one by one, he listened to Zhu Yun talk about his plan for the demon refining tower. You did a good job, but I have a better suggestion. Yesuanhua said, the junior disciples are going back to Yunzhou, while I, Zer, fellow Taoist Huo and others are here to establish a sect, so as to cover up others' eyes. Master, what do you mean, you want to stay here and watch the demon refining tower? What demon refining tower? Yesuanhua glared at him and said deliberately, this is where I am at the 7-star gate. No one can enter. Zhu Yun was dumbfounded, then laughed, and said, Master, you are too involved in the drama. He knew that restoring the 7-star sect was his long-cherished wish in life. Now that the Wanjian mountain that destroyed the 7-star gate is long gone, and the situation in the mortal world is also very good, rebuilding the 7-star gate is actually a good choice. Compared to the Peepa realm, the Dongsheng realm has countless elixir materials and other items, which just solves the problem of the 7-star sect's shortage of resources for the 7 methods of cultivation. Needless to say, there is no need to say much about refining alchemy and refining weapons. The cinnabar and talisman paper required for the talisman also need to be made of various materials. To the human race, Dongsheng realm is completely unexplored virgin land. As long as they put some thought into it, the 7-star sect can definitely develop. Yesuanhua can also open the door to accept disciples and pass on all the methods of the 7-star sect. Humph, you brat. From now on, don't call me master. Those who believe are fine, but those who don't believe may destroy my sect and say that I am using your name. Cheating. Zhu Yun was stunned for a moment and then understood what Yesuanhua meant. Indeed, now his name is known to the entire mortal world. But his master is a nobody. Once a teacher, always a father. Zhu Yun first saluted, and then said, it seems that I hit the mark back then. I called you master, but you didn't dare to agree. Yesuanhua curled his lips and whispered, if you shout when no one is around, I will still dare to agree. Ha ha ha. The two of them laughed at the same time, and all the people in the tower had left the demon refining tower. The two masters and apprentices walked out of the tower. Zuyun said, "Master, I'm going to find the elixir. You can go to the ground. When I come back, I will seal this place." After that, his figure disappeared instantly. "Humph, isn't it just teleportation? What's so great about it?" Yasuanhua snarled with an envious look, then looked at the demon refining tower behind him, and said to himself, "You can't do everything. Don't you want to seal this place? I also want to establish a sect here, so why not just do it? Let's just set up a big formation." I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 858. Yasuanhua naturally chose to set up the 9 turns and 9 yang formation as the formation to seal the demon refining tower. At this level of existence, he could only use this formation. This is due to the special nature of his formation. Through the superposition of spiritual stones, the formation can become more powerful. Moreover, except for Zuyun, who has learned the great achievements of the 9 turn 9 yang formation, no one understands its secrets. Even Tang Liwen, a powerful person at the peak of the late nascent soul stage, only knew a little bit about it through communicating with him. It is even more difficult to break the formation. Of course, if Yasuanhua wants to break the opponent's star-shifting formation, the same reason applies. However, Yasuanhua needed to spend a lot of spirit stones and energy to arrange them. Fortunately, he had time at this time. With the help of most of the monks at the time, there was no shortage of spirit stones. If both conditions were met, there would naturally be no problem. While he was setting up his formation, Zuyun moved forward and arrived at the Ma clan's ancestral land. A group of demon emperors had just arrived, and when they were preparing to discuss the next matter, Zuyun arrived. "Zuyun, why are you here? Has the demon refining tower been solved?" the horse demon emperor asked, while leading Zuyun towards the house. All the demon emperors gave way to show their respect for him. Zuyun smiled slightly and said, "It's solved, there will be no demon refining tower in Dongsheng realm from now on." He planned to keep the demon refining tower secret directly to avoid future troubles. It's not that Zuyun doesn't believe in the demon kings, it's actually the remnant soul of a bird, who knows how many years it will take to recover. If someone gets into it and disturbs the bird, who knows what will happen? Simply put, it's done once and for all. Did you take away the demon refining tower? Zuyun didn't even need to say anything, the demon emperors immediately understood what Zuyun meant. Zuyun smiled and said nothing, while the rabbit demon emperor said, "I'll take it away for you." By the way, Zuyun said as if he suddenly remembered something, "Do you demon emperors know about the Spirit Sword sect?" "Spirit Sword section, I think about it, it seems that you are from the Spirit Sword sect." Brother Dayang had a good memory and said. "Exactly." Zuyun raised his hands and said, "I came here to meet the demon emperors for one more reason. It's my selfish intention. The Lingjian sect is originally a sect in Yunzhou, but the Yunzhou territory broken, spiritual energy is exhausted. Now, my master and the others want to leave some relatively high-level disciples to establish a sect in the Nightmare Demon ancestral land." "What's the point?" All the demon emperors couldn't help but laugh easily, especially Niu Hung, who was dancing with his axe and said, "Zuyun, in this Dongsheng realm, it's just like your home. If you talk about it, if anyone is dissatisfied, I'll be the first to chop him down." Zuyun was dumbfounded. He didn't expect these demon emperors to accept this matter so easily. He smiled and continued, "However, it can be regarded as the ancestral land of the rat tribe. Now that the demon emperor of the rat tribe has not been chosen, he should not will it affect the rat clan. He dares." Niu Hung smashed the axe on the ground, and the huge brute force made the ground shake slightly. The demon emperor's palace shook several times. The distressed demon Emperor Ma quickly stepped forward, picked up the axe, and angrily said, "Old Niu, don't mess around." Only then did Niu Hung realize that this was the hometown of the Ma clan. He couldn't help but stuff the axe back into his waist angrily, and said sheepishly, "I'm sorry, Emperor Ma, isn't this Zhu Yun's business?" Zhu Yun smiled and said, "By the way, have you elected the demon king of the rat clan?" They said it was their choice, but in fact, the demon king of the rat clan who survived the demon refining tower was first deceived into the nightmare demon ancestral land, and then forced into the demon refining tower, and then was tricked by a Niao's holy method of controlling demons. I went back and forth several times and suffered great mental trauma. It is no longer possible to become the demon king. The 3 demon kings with white beard at that time were actually frightened out of their wits and didn't know where to flee. In other words, the rat clan currently has no suitable demon king at all. This matter was already discussed with the demon king of the other 10 tribes on their way back. Zhu Yun happened to be here too, so they planned to tell Zhu Yun their decision. "Zhu Yun, we plan to never use totem poles again." Brother Dayang had the clearest thinking and said to Zhu Yun. "What? What do you mean?" Zhu Yun was puzzled. "It's just that, although the totem pole can allow us, the demon king, to achieve immortality, it is not of much help to our people. Moreover, we always feel that the totem pole seems to be controlling us in the dark." Brother Dayang's words stunned Zhu Yun. He knew that the demon king was selected by a totem pole, and he had also thought about what kind of existence a totem pole was. Then you. Zhu Yun had so many thoughts in his mind that he didn't know where to start. Brother Dayang smiled and said, "So we plan not to use totem poles anymore. It just so happens that there is still a lack of statues in the demon refining tower? Why not treat these totem poles as statues, which may also help you control the demon refining tower in the future?" With that said, Brother Dayang took out his totem pole and stood it directly in front of Zhu Yun. The other demon kings followed the same pattern. A moment later, 11 totem poles stood in front of Zhu Yun. "What are you doing?" Zhu Yun couldn't laugh or cry. Although the totem pole can identify the demon emperor and accept the inheritance, it is indeed of little use to the demon clan with the demon emperor. But the big deal is that it won't be used in the future. What's the point of giving them all to me? But I have to say that what Brother Dayang said makes sense. There is a missing statue in the demon refining tower. However, it is useless for him to have the statue now. There is no evil thought in it, only the good thoughts of the demon saint. Zhu Yun wanted to say that you don't need to give it to me, just seal it up. Moreover, without the totem pole, how can you enter the cliff of heaven? Didn't it say that the cliff of heaven needs at least 3 totem poles to enter it? But when the words came to his lips, he stretched out his hand and stuffed all the totem poles into his immortal mansion. Just because he remembered a sentence, the 12 major demon tribes carry the destiny. Originally, he was not very interested in destiny. But when the matter of the nightmare demon and the evil thoughts was resolved, the idle mind, for some reason, came up again. In order to ease the embarrassment of his action, Zhu Yun hurriedly said, "This time I came to see the demon kings. In fact, there is another thing." "Zhu Yun, you said it's easy, we are so familiar with each other, do we still need to be so polite?" The rabbit demon king said with a sweet smile. "Then I won't be polite." Zhu Yun paused and said with a smile, "Someone in the spirit sword sect was seriously injured this time. I need to refine some pills to help her heal, but I'm short of a few spiritual medicines. I want to ask you for a favor." Zhu Yun feels very grateful. "Find spiritual medicines. That's easy." The Ma Demon King agreed directly and said, "Just tell me the name of the spiritual medicine." The other demon kings also nodded, all with the same meaning. Zhu Yun was overjoyed and quickly told the spiritual medicines needed to refine the infant cultivation pill and the soul shaping pill. The demon kings took notes one by one. At the last glance, they found that all the spiritual medicines Zuyun needed could be gathered. However, many of them were in their respective ancestral warehouses and were not brought with them. The demon kings decided to take the younger generation back to the ancestral land first, and then the demon king would personally deliver the spiritual medicines. Or, you should send them to the ancestral land of the nightmare demon. My master is going to establish a new sect, named the 7-Star Sect. I'll wait for you there. After Zuyun met with the demon kings, he also said goodbye to them. There is still a lot of time to stay here. After Zuyun left, the demon king sighed again. The totem pole was also taken away by Zuyun. They were a little disappointed, only Niu Heng looked heartless. In fact, he didn't have a deep impression of the totem pole. After all, after the nightmare demon stole the totem pole, he knew that the ox-headed pole was the totem of their cattle tribe. What's wrong with you? You look so sad. Niu Heng didn't like this atmosphere. I mean, without the totem pole, does the cliff of the sky really have to rely on us and the younger generation to carry it? The words of the dog demon king made everyone silent. Only Niu Heng said indifferently, at most, we can transform into humans and go through the spiritual world passage of the human race. Why do we have to go to the cliff of the sky? When this was said, everyone was stunned. It seems that they have never heard of any restrictions on the spiritual world passage of Peepa Realm. As long as there is a guide, you can reach the spiritual world. To put it bluntly, there is no requirement for the realm. It seems that this is feasible. For a moment, their eyes lit up. Niu Huang, maybe if we have a chance, we can really go to the human Peepa realm to have a look. Yes, now we have a good relationship with the human race, and it should not be difficult to enter their passage. Then let's help Zuyun find spiritual medicine first, and then gather at the ancestral land of the Rat clan. All of a sudden, all the demon kings were extremely excited. Even if they can no longer go to the spiritual world, they can help their tribesmen to explore the way first, and they don't have to go to the spiritual world. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 859. Zuyun returned to the ground outside the demon refining tower. After almost half a day of going back and forth, Yezhi had already led people to build a lot of construction here. After a few casual conversations, Zuyun knew that they would first build the prototype of the sect, and then escort the junior disciples back to the Lingjian sect. Most of the Lingjian sect is swordsmen, and the requirements for spiritual roots and spiritual power are not too high. Sun Qiniang once left the 18 swordsmanship of Wanjian Mountain in the Lingjian section now, Zhouru Yu and Yu Yulin both it can be taught to the disciples, but it will not affect the next problems of the Lingjian sect. After the 7-Star sect is established, it will recruit outstanding disciples from the Spirit Sword sect to join it. It is not necessary to learn the 7 methods. Yesuanhua will find suitable disciples and teach them the corresponding skills. This will prevent the 7-Star sect from losing its inheritance. While chatting with Yezhi, Yesuanhua also set up a large formation and flew up from the ground with a tired look on his face. Zuyun, are you back? Have you found the elixir? When he saw Zuyun, his eyes flashed with light. I asked the demon kings to find it. All the elixirs are available. When the corresponding elixirs are refined, the refining fairy can be cured. That's good. Yesuanhua said a few more words, saying that he was a little tired, explained a few words, and then went to find a place to rest. Yezhi also needed to direct his disciples to build the sect, so he politely told Zuyun that he was busy. Zuyun suddenly had nothing to do. The big dog and the 2 dogs were still recuperating. Zuyun was afraid that if he went to see them, they would get excited. Looking left and right, he saw Meng Wei standing quietly in the distance, and he didn't know what he was thinking. And walked over as soon as his mind got hot. Boundless. Walking behind Meng Wei, Zhu Yun chuckled, which made Meng Wei tremble. He turned around and said reproachfully, "You scared me to death." "No, you are the young palace master of Demon Dao, why are you so timid?" Zhu Yun couldn't help but smile and said. Meng Wei said coquettishly, "I was thinking about something, and who knew you didn't even make a sound of footsteps when you walked." It's no wonder that Zhu Yun, at his level, walks like the wind and doesn't make a sound even if he doesn't deliberately suppress it. "Thinking about something, what are you thinking about?" Zhu Yun asked curiously. "I miss Master Senior Luo." "Yes. I saw her when we were in the tower before, but at that time we were all trying to stop our evil thoughts and we didn't even say hello." Meng Wei's expression dimmed accordingly. Zhu Yun understood her feelings. The master and apprentice were like mother and daughter. He later heard Luo Yanran say that she had picked up Meng Wei when he was still an infant and raised him in the Yaluo sect in Yazhu. "Let's go and take a look when things are over here," Zhu Yun comforted. "Are you going?" Meng Wei turned around, blinked at Zhu Yun, and said, "I remember you said you wanted to build a courtyard for me." Seeing such a playful look, Zhu Yun felt a little embarrassed and said, "I didn't do it. It was given to you by Senior Luo. I just told it to you." It was rare for Meng Wei to see Zhu Yun's expression. He chuckled and smiled, then put away his smile and said, "Zhu Yun, now the mortal world is fine, and you have also cultivated to such a state. Next, are you going to the spiritual world?" "Not yet," Zhu Yun shook his head and said, "during this period, I plan to travel to the lower world, mainly until the big dog and the second dog have also cultivated to the nascent soul stage. At that time, the three of us brothers will go together." "Spiritual world?" Hearing this, Meng Wei exclaimed, "Are you kidding?" Zhu Yun said seriously, "Do you think I'm joking with you?" Meng Wei's big eyes stared at Zhu Yun for a long time before his red lips slightly opened. "Yes." Then, he nodded 3 times. "Forget it if you don't believe me," Zhu Yun curled his lips and said, "Daegu Ergu and I are good brothers who grew up wearing crotchless pants. I can't possibly leave them alone in the mortal world." Meng Wei couldn't help but said, "Zhu Yun, what if they can't reach the nascent soul stage?" "Impossible." Zhu Yun said seriously, "Although they are relatively less talented, people without spiritual roots can cultivate to the nascent soul stage, why can't they? How is it possible to practice without spiritual roots?" Meng Wei didn't believe it. "Every plant, tree, monster, or stone can become an immortal. I don't have spiritual roots, so why not?" Zhu Yun said a word calmly. It is exactly the 16 words Yang carved on the top of the barren rock mountain. But Meng Wei had never heard of it before. He couldn't help but shook his head and said, "Zhu Yun, plants, trees, monsters, and stones can become immortals. That's because of the way of heaven. We humans are the spirits of all things. If we want to practice, we naturally need spiritual roots." Zhu Yun chuckled lightly and said, "I have heard of monks without spiritual roots who have cultivated to the nascent soul stage and gone to the spirit world. I have also seen with my own eyes a monk without spiritual roots who have cultivated to the elixir formation stage. If you don't die, you can naturally cultivate to the nascent soul stage." "Impossible." Meng Wei shook his head repeatedly and said, "Have you been deceived?" Looking at Meng Wei, who looked serious, Zhu Yun said helplessly, "It's true, how could I be deceived? By the way, you may not know the name of that powerful person who has cultivated to the spiritual world, but there must have been a legend about him." "Who?" Meng Wei was shocked. "Yang. Yang. Yes, Yang. You should know Wan Jianshan, your mortal enemy, right?" With that said, Zhu Yun took out the chaos sword and inserted it on the ground in front of him. Meng Wei said, you can just say it, don't talk too much. Zuyun pointed at the chaos sword standing on the ground and smiled, look, does this look like a shrunken Wanjian mountain? Meng Wei felt that Zuyun was teasing her, and she was a little impatient, but looking from top to bottom, she actually had some similarities with the gate of Wanjian mountain. This is the gate of Wanjian mountain. It was refined by me. Zuyunyu is amazing. And Meng Wei's mouth was so wide that he could fit an egg in. She had seen Zuyun's sword many times, but she had never asked about its origins. It turned out to be Wanjian mountain? She couldn't help but take a breath and said, did you refine the gate of Wanjian mountain into a sword? No, Zuyun stood up, held the chaos sword in his hand, and said, to be precise, Wanjian mountain is a sword, the natal magic sword of their founder. However, it was knocked down by Ye Yang's hammer. Once you enter the land, you can never get it out again. After countless years, Wanjian mountain has become their mountain gate. It turned out to be like this. Wait a minute, hammer, you said it was hammered to the ground. Meng Wei's eyes suddenly brightened up and he said, I remembered it. I heard that the ground in Chuzhu was cracked by a supreme power in a rage with a hammer. Could it be that this legend is it true? Correct answer. Looking at Meng Wei's surprised eyes, Zuyun couldn't help but smile, that senior is called Ye Yang. And he has no spiritual roots. Senior like that, how do you know you don't have spiritual roots? Meng Wei still doesn't believe it. Because those 16 words were said by Ye Yang. Zuyun stared at Meng Wei and said seriously. Meng Wei opened his mouth but said nothing, but then he heard Zuyun say, originally, I didn't believe it either. But then, I met another monk who had no spiritual roots, but he made a breakthrough in front of me. It's the elixir formation period. Seeing Zuyun's expression, Meng Wei stopped talking and let him explain Tang Tiangang in detail. He actually broke through with the formation. It was not that Meng Wei couldn't accept it, but what Zuyun said was too shocking, but she then remembered that Yesuan Hua once told her that her cultivation talent was not strong, so she needed to pass the 4 methods of cultivating the array weapon Fudan. If he improves in any one of them, he can break through to the nascent soul stage. In this way, it is really possible to practice only one path. I'm short-sighted. Meng Wei said to Zuyun. Zuyun smiled nonchalantly and said, I've told you so much, but I've gone astray. In fact, although Big Dog's talent is average, I feel that with my help, he will definitely be able to cultivate to the nascent soul stage. My only worry is it's Ergu. Meng Wei said in a deep voice, he has practiced the Yaluo demonic art, so he can only use the spiritual world passage from the Juyu land. That's right, Zuyun sat down, patted his side, and motioned for Meng Wei to sit down as well, and then said, the second dog is actually far more determined than the big dog. He persisted in guarding the mines alone for several years. But the only thing is that he is always prone to random thoughts. Zuyun couldn't help but remember that Ergu had said several times that he would not cultivate immortality. Zuyun knew the reason. Ergu felt that he could not keep up with him and did not want to drag himself down. But now that he is considered a demon cultivator, he can really only go to the spirit world passage in the 9 Netherlands. So, you are worried about 2 things. First, you are afraid that Ergu will not go with you. Secondly, you are afraid that Ergu will not be able to go with you, and you will not be able to take care of him. Meng Wei pointed it out, after all, there were only 2 of them here. Yes. Zuyun took a deep breath and said, Wei, in the world of immortality, people really can't help themselves. If I walk alone, I can protect myself, but what about them? This is what Zuyun is really worried about. If he goes to the spirit world, he can protect himself. If things don't work out, he can hide in the immortal mansion. But what mysterious methods do Big Dog and Ergu have? One uses a sword and the other uses a knife. If they were not careful, they would be ants that were slapped to death by some monks. Meng Wei was silent, and Zuyun was silent for a long time. In fact, he could go to the spiritual world to develop his cultivation first. The restrictions of heaven in the mortal world would keep his realm stagnant. Even if there is an epiphany, even if the spiritual power in the body can be accumulated. But after arriving in the spirit world, he still seemed to have to start practicing all over again. But Zuyun would rather the three of them go to the spiritual world in the same realm and have someone to help them. The two of them sat like this for an unknown amount of time. Meng Wei suddenly turned to Zuyun and asked, "What about me?" Zuyun was stunned. He had been thinking about how Big Dog and Ergu would continue their training, and also wondered whether he should refine the Xiaoyuan pill to convince them, because based on his understanding of the two of them, he was absolutely unwilling to let Zuyun is waiting for them in the mortal world. We can obviously explore a wider world, so why stop moving forward? Cultivation of immortality is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. Although it is impossible for Zuyun's realm to fall again, they will definitely use it as an excuse for wasting their lifespan. Therefore, you can use Xiaoyuan Dan to shut their mouths. What you? Zuyun didn't react for a while. Snored. Meng Wei stood up, fluttered his sleeves and left. Zuyun didn't expect to understand, but suddenly a voice calling him came from the distance. Wish Yun, Wish Yun. Zuyun looked up and saw a huge, crystal-clear rabbit running towards him. Who else could it be but the Rabbit Demon King in his original form? Is he bringing spiritual medicine? Zuyun was delighted and stood up to greet him. The Rabbit Demon King instantly transformed into a graceful female cultivator and said with a smile, "Zuyun, I have brought the spiritual medicine, but there is one more thing I want to discuss with you." After stuffing a storage bag into Zuyun's hand, the Rabbit Demon King hurriedly spoke. "Discuss? Please speak, Demon King." Zuyun thought that the Rabbit Demon King was going to talk about the Seven Stars Gate, and he didn't have time to see what spiritual medicine was in the storage bag. "It's like this," the Rabbit Demon King said seriously, "we have thought of a way for the younger generation to go to the spiritual world. That is, let them go through the passage of the Peeper realm." "What?" Zuyun was stunned. "The passage to Peeper realm seems to have no requirements. I remember hearing Hu Chong say before that it is nothing more than a guide to walk through the fog." Zuyun did not speak, but nodded to signal the Rabbit Demon King to continue. "We 10 Demon Kings have agreed to go to the spiritual world passage of Peeper realm. If it is feasible, we will need you to talk about it. We in Dongsheng realm can pay some price." Hearing this, Zuyun suddenly became excited. He remembered that Lin Wen and Lin Xiaoqi had never mentioned what the spiritual world passage of Peeper realm required of people entering the passage. So, Ergu can go with him? Immediately, Zuyun wanted to run to the Lin family ancestral land in the far north and ask Lin Xiaoqi about it. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 860. I think this will work, then we'll wait until they come over. Zuyun decided to wait until the Demon Kings arrived, then refine the elixir for Lian Nishang, settle the Big Dog and the 2 dogs, and then go over with them to have a look. Thinking that the 2 dogs no longer need to be separated, Zuyun was in a good mood. At the same time, he also remembered what Meng Wei had said to him before, and couldn't help but secretly thought in his heart, Wei is also in the Yuanying stage. By then, those of us in the Yuanying stage will all we can go to the spirit world together and there will be someone to take care of us. I didn't know where she went just now, so I'd better go over and tell her. Zuyun said goodbye to the Rabbit Demon Emperor, looked around, and found that Meng Wei was walking towards the direction of Peeper realm. He couldn't help but be slightly startled, and then quickly chased after him. "Wei, what are you doing?" Zuyun said strangely. "I'm leaving." "Where are you going?" You haven't recovered your spiritual power yet. Zuyun said anxiously. Anyway, the mortal world is peaceful now, so what does it matter whether you have spiritual power or not? Mengwei said with some anger. In fact, she can use the spiritual power of the Sky Fire Dragon to drive the Fire Dragon staff, taking her all the way across the Peepa realm and to the Yasha realm. She wanted to see Luo Yanran. Do you want to find Senior Luo? Zuyun understood Mengwei's purpose and said, you have no spiritual power. How many years and months can you go with these two legs? How about sharpening the knife and chopping firewood? Why don't you practice it here first? Are you concerned about me? Mengwei stared at Zuyundeo. Of course I care, Zuyun nodded and said, this way you can go to Yasha realm faster. Mengwei almost exploded with anger. After all, you still want me to go to Yasha realm as soon as possible? Her chest was heaving and she said angrily, I don't want to practice here, I want to see my master now. After saying that, she turned around angrily, but she couldn't move her legs. Because she still thought that if Zuyun persuaded her to stay, she would stay. Sure enough, Zuyun also said, don't worry, I still have something to say to you. What words? Mengwei turned his head in surprise. Zuyun said, I plan to take you to the spiritual world with me, are you willing? Real? Mengwei was so happy that his beautiful eyes turned into crescents unconsciously. Of course it's true, but it will take some time. I don't know if you can wait. Zuyun means that we have to wait until the big dog and the two dogs have reached the nascent soul stage. But these words made Mengwei curl his lips. In Zuyun's heart, her status is still not as good as that of Big Dog and Ergu. But after thinking about it, Mengwei didn't hesitate for a long time. After all, she had lived and died with him, so she understood Zuyun and accepted it. This is good news. Then I will reluctantly stay and practice. Mengwei found a step for himself. Unexpectedly, Zuyun was surprised and said, aren't you going to find Senior Luo? This made Mengwei angrily yell, Zuyun. That girl, I like you. Mengwei left, and the Rabbit Demon Emperor appeared behind Zuyun at some point, covering his mouth and laughing. Zuyun smiled bitterly, of course I know. But how can a son and daughter grow in love while cultivating immortality? The Rabbit Demon Emperor blinked his eyes and said with a smile, I do want my children to be in love, but among the 12 demon clans, we, the Rabbit clan, can't do that. Why? Zuyun was stunned and asked strangely. The way of heaven dictates that both humans and animals need to mate in order to reproduce. Have you forgotten Yunzie? The Rabbit Demon Emperor smiled and said, when we, the Rabbit tribe, reach a certain age, we have to drink the water of the pregnant river. After drinking it, we can conceive. But what is born is also the mother's womb. The cycle starts over and over again. The Rabbit Demon Emperor laughed so hard that his branches trembled, but Zuyun saw the sadness and helplessness in it. We, the Rabbit tribe, hope very much to enjoy normal emotions, but unfortunately we don't know why this fate is like this. Maybe it has something to do with destiny, maybe it has nothing to do with destiny. But no matter what, the pregnant Sun River exists there, and it has never flooded, and it has never flooded. Not dry. Zuyun, in fact, no one of the 12 demon tribes wants to break through the spiritual world passage and become a saint there than our Rabbit tribe. Zuyun thought of the role of the Genzi River, but he didn't know that the river had such a great impact on the Rabbit tribe. Rabbit Emperor, if you have anything to say, just say it. The Rabbit Demon King looked into the distance, which was the direction of Tianzi Cliff. This time, if we can successfully pass through the spirit world, I want to take all the rabbits to the spirit world in a few days. Zuyun frowned and said, the whole clan. Yes, even the Dragon clan can move to the spirit world. Why can't we Rabbit clan? I've had enough of this so-called destiny. If possible, I want to remove the eternal life given to me by the totem pole now. I earn this immortality by myself. Don't you, the human race, always say that cultivating immortality goes against the will of heaven? Why can't I? For a moment, the rabbit demon emperor was filled with pride, which made Zuyun feel a kind of admiration in his heart. But I heard that the dragon clan suffered heavy losses. Is this true? Of course, the rabbit demon emperor didn't hide anything, and said, the dragon clan forced its way into the cliff of the sky and almost lost more than 90% of the clan members. I don't know how they are doing in the spiritual world now, and whether they have been exterminated. Genocide? Is the spiritual world so scary? No matter how bad the dragon clan is, they are still demon clan with true dragon bloodline. Why did the rabbit demon emperor say it so seriously? The spiritual world is not scary, what is scary is the human heart. The rabbit demon emperor glanced at Zuyun meaningfully and said, the human heart I am talking about does not refer to the human heart, but to all living beings with spiritual intelligence. Including you humans. Zuyun's brows deepened and he said, Rabbit Emperor, please clear up your doubts. The Rabbit Demon King sighed and said, actually, what we haven't said yet about the Demon Refining Tower is the one who made the Demon Refining Tower back then. It is said that he is in the Mahayana stage. Zuyun took a breath and said, Mahayana period. Yes, the Mahayana period. The Rabbit Demon Emperor said, a senior in the Mahayana stage has to pay such a high price to help a demon saint break his inner demon. You can imagine how powerful the demon saint is. Zuyunshan agreed and nodded. Then, for such a powerful demon saint, why did the Mahayana senior imprison the demon saint's good thoughts in the tower? I don't believe it. Even if the senior is capable enough, there is no need to keep the demon refining tower in the tower. Is it necessary to put a demon saint into the tower after being left in the mortal world for tens of thousands of years? In fact, I have always felt that the demon refining tower might be a means prepared by someone from the spiritual world. Just in case you need it? Zuyun asked, what method? The Rabbit Demon King looked directly at Zuyun and said, I don't know what method, but I know that if the Great Master is willing, he can enter the tower and let the demon saint's evil thoughts and good thoughts directly merge together, or he can the demon saint's evil thoughts are wiped out. Anyway, I think this demon refining tower is just a waste of time. Do you think the powerful senior has the leisure to do such a thing? Hearing this, Zuyun suddenly fell silent. Although the Rabbit Demon Emperor was just her one-sided guess, it had to be said that many of them were reasonable. I hope nothing will happen to the demon refining tower. Zuyun sighed. A Niao only has good thoughts and will not do evil. He doesn't want such good thoughts to die. But there is one more thing. What if the strange behavior of the demon refining tower aroused the Almighty's vigilance? Moreover, it was okay for the powerful man to come down from the spirit world and express his anger at Zuyun. But if he wanted to express his anger at the entire mortal world, wouldn't it mean that he had done something bad with good intentions? Thinking of this, Zuyun suddenly felt excited all over. Could it be that the Rabbit Demon Emperor wanted to move his entire family to the spirit world because he was afraid of being implicated? Zuyun almost blurted out, but held back the words when they reached his lips. It would be okay if you guessed wrong, but it would be embarrassing if you guessed right. Don't ask, don't ask. What the Rabbit Demon Emperor said is right, people's hearts are unpredictable. The Rabbit Demon King did not notice that Zuyun looked wrong, but saw that he was not very interested, so he found an excuse and left, just waiting for the other Demon Kings to come over. Zuyun thought for a long time and finally made a decision. Spirit world, go as soon as possible. Moreover, I have to go alone. He didn't want to escape, but wanted to leave a message. If there really is a powerful senior who comes down from the spirit world, let everyone blame him. Only by withstanding all the wrath of that great power can the mortal world have a glimmer of hope. It's such a happy decision. Zuyun said to himself, where could he see a hint of happiness on his face? Next, it's time to wait for the Demon King to gather. 10 days later, a group of demon emperors came in person and took out their respective elixirs. After Zuyun took them one by one, he said, "Dear demon emperors, wait for me to refine the elixir first, and then follow everyone to the spiritual world." "I'll." "Ha ha ha, no rush, no rush, we are not in a rush." All the demon kings said with a smile. Everything depends on Zuyun's words, so naturally they will not rush Zuyun. In fact, Zuyun was more anxious than anyone else. After spending another 5 days, Zuyun refined the infant training pill and soul shaping pill and handed them to Yesuanhua together with the pill recipe. In addition to the 5 spiritual pills, the pill formulas obtained during the nascent soul stage, including those previously obtained from the immortal mansion, were also given to him. Good apprentice, good apprentice. Yesuanhua beamed with joy, and after carefully putting away the pill recipe, he solidified his expression and said, "Are you going to the spirit world?" "Master, you know too much." Zuyun smiled bitterly. "Haha, it doesn't matter that you are better than me now, but when you open your mouth, I know what you are going to say." Yesuanhua was obviously reluctant to give up, but he had a nonchalant look on his face as he said, "Going to the spirit world is just like joining my disciples. It's not a bad thing to be more thoughtful, but remember." Zuyun was moved in his heart and nodded repeatedly, "Disciple understands." "Yes, yes." Yesuanhua took out a tattered book without a cover from his arms, stuffed it into Zuyun's hand, and said, "This is passed down from my ancestors. The first half was lost by our ancestors, and the second half, I'm not in a good state, so I don't know what I'm writing. Just keep it and go to the spiritual world. If it's useful, you can read it. If it's not, you can burn it as firewood." After saying that, Zuyun was kicked out of the house. When he heard Zuyun walked away, he wiped his tears and muttered something in his mouth.